obviously Will Smith smacking Chris Rock has gotten a lot of attention. And then you have Stephen Colbert, who, by the way, getting beaten now by the Gutfeld show on a regular basis in the evening, the most watched evening show on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox News is now on Fox News. More people are watching Gutfeld in the evening than are watching Stephen Colbert, who had been winning the nightly contest. He said, hey, Fox News Channel's Peter Doocy, he deserves a slap for asking about Russia. Listen to this.
President Biden held a press conference, and he was asked a ridiculous question by a ridiculous man, Fox News reporter, and that one kid in high school who wears a suit to gym class, Peter Doocy. Jimmy, drop the deuce.
When you said a chemical weapon use by Russia would trigger a response in kind.
It will trigger a significant response.
What does that mean?
I'm not going to tell you. Why would I tell you? You got to be silly.
Remember, yes. Remember how on last night's show I said that slapping is never, ever the answer? I'd like to file a one-time exemption on behalf of the President of the United States.
This is
so you should
Soviet
slap
style.
at Buck for asking a question, which is 100% a valid question. Like, why would you not want the president to answer a question? You may not answer it. That's fine. But you should, as a journalist, be asking, what is a significant response to chemical weapons going to look like? I mean, that's the number one question. If I told you, Buck, hey, if I tell one of my kids, hey, there's going to be a significant response if you don't follow directions when it comes to taking care of your brother, it's the natural response of the kid to be like, okay, what's a significant response? I mean, that's the number one question that should be asked.
It's actually worse than that, though, because what he said initially, they're making fun of Doocy for asking for clarification. Is, oh, yeah, like we would tell you. He was asking for the clarification because the initial Biden gaffe, which they admitted was a gaffe because they walked it back right away, was respond in kind. If someone,
meaning
if you say, if you stab me,
yeah,
I'm going to stab you back, that is responding in kind.
Yes.
And when you're talking about chemical weapon usage, that's what that phrase would mean. Now, this is one of three things Biden said, although I will say the only one that I thought, and they did walk it back too, but was a little, when he said, you'll see with your own eyes the Ukrainian people who are going to stand up against the Russians. I mean, you could say that he could see it on the news or whatever. So that one I thought the big problem was obviously the regime change comment about how Putin can't stay in power. That was the biggest. But this one about chemical weapons was also clearly sloppy. But notice what's happened here. This is just, cleanup crew on aisle. Oh, my God, Joe Biden just said something again. You have Colbert making it seem as though the person who's trying to, in this case, Doocy at Fox, trying to get clarity and therefore accountability for a blundered statement from the president. The person asking the question is the problem, not the clearly not up for the job senile commander-in-chief who is making these gaffes. He's not the problem. That's the whole point of this, and that's what he tries to achieve with laughter. They're just propagandists for the regime. I mean, it's gross. It's unseemly what Colbert and these others do. And under the banner of comedy? Ha, 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 yeah. Whatever makes us the most effective toadies for the Biden regime. It's not funny. We just had Stephen Colbert call for the slap exception for a journalist, Doocy. Because remember, the libs don't want anybody to ask real questions of Biden. They don't want this. This bothers them. They pretend they want journalism. They actually don't want journalism. Democrats don't want that. And then there was this, which I think people were saying felt almost like Jon Stewart. Now Jon Stewart has been a propagandist for the left for a very long time. I mean, he is a huge lib, and it really kind of created an art form or built this art form of comedy political commentary as a form of propaganda where you don't have to really answer for what you say because, ha, 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 man, I'm just making jokes. It's puppets on this show before I come on the air, because he had the Crank Yanker show, whatever. That's the way that he was doing things for a long time. And now he's kind of back, I guess, with an Apple Plus. Did you see some of this, Clay, the Apple Plus
I saw
show?
the clips. I don't know how to – it's getting to the point now, Buck, where I really feel like an old man. I can't sometimes find shows anymore. Right? Like I feel like we've got every different service we're signed up for, but there's so many different places. I can't even find things. So I don't even know how to find the Jon Stewart show, but I've seen the clips.
Here's what he says about, there's a whole, the problem with white people is, of course, Jon Stewart's white, but the problem with which plenty of white liberals love to do this whole I'm fighting against white supremacy thing. It's virtue signaling. It's pathetic. It's what they do. But here you go, Jon Stewart showing how wokeness doesn't even really make sense. And after you're a multimillionaire benefiting from the system, tens of millions of dollars paid to be a Democrat shill, you go on this show now and say the following. Play clip 9.
I think the conversation is then this. We have an awful history. Its remnants are still
We
felt
also have
today.
a great history, John.
Say it again?
We also have a great history.
But I think you're minimizing it. You're suggesting that
I
because
think by calling
Yeah.
today white supremacy, you are minimizing actual white supremacy. You have an incredible diversity. To condemn all American
It's
history
not.
as
I
racist,
disagree
when in
that
fact
they're
it's
generalizing all
liberatory.
white people. The systems that were
throughout this
racist that were put in place.
Systems.
Yes, the systems that were put in place.
I'd like you to explain exactly what they are.
Well, I thought I explained it earlier about the GI Bill and about the New Deal.
That's one thing. I want to know about these systems.
I just explained it. Housing.
That's
food.
one, and I've agreed that.
Andrew, you're not living on the same planet we are. Honestly. I really don't think you are.
I think you are not living. I think you are not living in the planet most Americans are.
By the way, I mean, Andrew Sullivan, of course, I think is speaking sense here. This whole this obsession with talking about how white supremacist America is today, it never actually sustains itself as an argument when it's subjected to any criticism. And then you do what Jon Stewart does. You start cursing and you just don't want to have a conversation. You don't want to have a conversation about racism.
The number one response that I would have for anybody out there that finds themselves in these conversations, like Jon Stewart, where there is a white liberal that wants to tell you that America is an awful place and rooted in white supremacy, just say what is true. America does not have a perfect history. No person or entity has a perfect history, right? Let's be clear. But if America was a fundamentally white supremacist nation today, how do Asian men make more money than anybody else in the country? This would be a huge failure of white supremacy, right? That we would allow Asian minorities, men, to arrive in this country and earn more than anyone else, any other ethnic group, which is true. And there isn't a response, right? They don't have a response because that is tangible evidence of the fact that America is not a white supremacist country, because Asian people, Asian men in particular, in this modern era, are more successful economically than any group of people in America.
Clay,
how does that happen?
Nigerian immigrants to America make more per capita than white Americans born in this country. Nigerian immigrants. So again, a fascinating failure of the, quote, white supremacist system that we're all supposed to be living in all the time. But this has become really a religious obsession for the left. I mean, this is their worldview, is that we are all soaked in this country in this constant white supremacy. And it's something we're going to have to continue to dissect and pull apart and address, because, well, what is the alternative? We're all supposed to sit here and you're supposed to apologize? Apologize to whom and for what? What is really the answer?
I think the alternative is what they're trying to create. I really believe this is a system whereby you destroy the entire foundation of America. The Constitution is not legitimate because there were white supremacists, there were slave owners who wrote it, the Declaration of Independence, all of it. The foundational documents of our country are, in their view, so stained by historical neglect and error as it pertains to race that they shouldn't exist anymore. They want to destroy the foundation of this country. I really do believe that's the essence of what they're attempting.
And we want to defend the foundation and the greatness
Yes.
of this country and save the country as much as possible. And all of you listening are helping us.